There was a moment in England a few years ago when Blair was still Prime Minister, I think, when he tried to introduce law to make it illegal to criticize religion. It's the same offense argument.
Right.
And I was one of the people who became involved in trying to prevent that from happening. And the other person who got very, very exercised about it is a normally very shy individual, Rowan Atkinson. Right? So Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean. Yes.
Mr. Bean goes to Whitehall. And there was an extraordinary day when Rowan and I went to the Home Office to meet with ministers and civil servants to say that this was a bad idea. And of course they were in a very difficult situation because they were all fans of his. So they all wanted him to like them. And instead he was being very mild. He's very soft-spoken, Rowan, but he was being very ferocious. There was a wonderful moment when he said, for example, recently in my television program, we used a clip of footage from, I believe, Friday prayers at Tehran. And over it, you see, I put a voiceover in which I said, and the search goes on for the Ayatollah's contact lens. And he said, now, would I be able to say that, or would I in fact go to jail? And they all went, comedy, ha, we love it, no, absolute freedom. No, we're totally in favor of it. You can have certain jokes, absolutely, we love them. And he said, but how would I know that it would be okay if you were to pass this law? And they said, no, it'd be very straightforward. You just submit it to a government authority and he would approve it and then you could make... And he said, oddly, that does not reassure me. He said, there's a country in which that used to take place. It was called the Soviet Union.
I begin with an apology of sorts, as this is the third week in a row that I'm addressing the subject of free speech, but to my embarrassment, it would appear that every time I think the British authorities have gone as far as possible in terms of spitting on anything and everything that made the country great in the first place, they make a fool of me. The YouTuber Marcus Meechan, known by the pseudonym Count Dankula, has been convicted of being grossly offensive under the Communications Act of 2003. Due to be sentenced on the 23rd of April, Meechan is potentially facing 2 months in jail for daring to film and upload the following bit of comedy.
Ausgequält wurde von dem leichten Zeug, das sie bejahen zu finden begann. Heute müssen wir selber...
Sieg heil! Sieg heil! Sieg heil! Sieg heil!
I don't think anybody would accuse me of hyperbole at this point if I were to say that freedom of expression, certainly as defined under the liberal tradition, is dead in my country. It's been dead on paper for a number of years now, and we are regularly seeing the ramifications of these various bits of crappy legislation that were proposed and passed by creeps and demagogues hell-bent on eradicating individual liberty, banishing all dissent, even when expressed through humour, and generally treating the entire country as if it were one giant classroom.
Last time, some of you forgot yourselves. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. Don't laugh, don't smile, don't even breathe loudly.
Don't breathe at all.
Morning, Miss Trunchbull.
Morning, Miss Trunchbull.
Sit!
Meechan's conviction, and others like his, have sent the British people a very clear message. Get in fucking line. You're not allowed to insult, you're not allowed to joke, you're not allowed to be edgy, controversial, or original. Know your place. And if you happen to forget where that is, don't worry, there's a nice 6x8 prison cell with your name on it, because just as that bloody fool of a judge presiding over this farce ruled on Tuesday, the right to freedom of expression also comes with responsibility. The responsibility not to be offensive. In other words, we agree with the Charlie Hebdo murderers on the matter of principle. we just happen to think the sentencing was a bit off. Well, I'm sorry. We're not going to tolerate any of this. We're not going to respect it. We're going to fight it. This is tyranny. Plain and simple.
And the other word is offence. It's now very common to hear people say, I'm rather offended by that, as if that gives them certain rights. It's actually nothing more, it's simply a whine. It's no more than a whine.
I find that so offensive.
I find that offensive.
Oh,
it has no meaning, it has no purpose, it has no reason to be respected as a phrase. I am offended by that. Well, so fucking what? I mean, you know, it's utterly uninteresting.
So, what's to be done? 3 words. Educate, demonstrate, and repudiate. Educate the general public. Commit to telling at least 5 people you know about this story. Tweet it, post it to Facebook, share articles, videos, whatever you can to spread the word. Make sure that any lack of resistance from the public at large to this scandal is not the result of ignorance. Educate the political class as to how this is beyond the pale. Write to them, email them, visit them during surgery hours. The fellow YouTuber Academic Agent has already pulled together a fine template one can use for this purpose. I've linked to it below, as well as to his video, which has already been mirrored by V and Sargon. I'm sure you've all seen it. If enough people raise this, it will be addressed before the House. And finally, educate yourselves. We are going to need to start rehashing arguments our civilization has forgotten having to have, to comprehend what all this free speech stuff is really about. So, how familiar are you with Mill's essay on liberty? How well do you know the positions advanced by Thomas Paine or Edmund Burke? You'd better understand them well enough to be able to defend European tradition against people who neither know nor care about it, that's for sure. So be competent in presenting the case. As that famous philosophical duo, Mulder and Scully, once said, the truth is out there. Make sure you find it and can articulate it.
But the most interesting case, though, for Mill that he makes it on liberty is, what if the 1% is actually wrong, like objectively wrong? What if we had a machine that could tell us with 100% certainty, you guys are totally right about this. This person really is a crackpot. She has no idea what she's talking about. Should we tolerate that view? And of course, we can think of parallels for this all over the place. And I mean, so if I'm a Jewish community in Skokie or whatever, should I allow Nazis to walk through my streets and protest and all this kind of stuff? I mean, we know Nazism is wrong. We know that anti-Semitism is wrong. We know all these sorts of, these are horrendous views and you know, hold no place in polite society and all that kind of stuff. So should we prevent them from speaking out and saying their mind? Bill says, no, even in that case, you're actually made better off through interacting with these particular views. You are, you're given a chance for your views on a particular matter to become, in some sense, more alive, to become better. And I see this all the time. So, I mean, when I teach something like Locke or when I teach Mill or whatever to students today, I mean, a lot of my students, I mean, these are good 20-year-old kids. They have the right views on most things, right? They know that human beings should be treated equally and all this kind of stuff. But if you press just the slightest bit, right? If you say, why should they be treated equally? What sort of doctrine are your views based on? Or is it based on a kind of natural equality? Is it, I mean, in other words, once you start kind of poking around the edges of this view, you know, they tense up a little bit. They're not really sure. In other words, they have the right views, but they don't know for the right reasons. Or they don't really remember why or how they came to these particular views. They hold them in a kind of shallow or sort of hollow sort of way. And so for Mill, interacting with someone who pushes you on these things, interacting with someone who genuinely does hold wrong views, gives you the chance to reinvigorate your own views on particular issues.
Actions do speak louder than words, however, and we are going to need to peel ourselves off of our computer chairs and venture outside at some stage. A level of support for Marcus and a denouncement of this ghoulish precedent must be demonstrated with physical presence. There will be protests organised across the UK. I have it on good authority that many big YouTube and online personalities, even comedians, will potentially be joining, so keep your ears open, and when these events are arranged, turn up. It's important, of course, to remain realistic about what street marches can practically achieve when all's said and done, but if we are to build enough cultural momentum to inspire the change we want to see, no tool in the shed should be left unboxed. And in terms of the bigger picture here, look, for God's sake, get out and vote for somebody who won't tolerate this nonsense anymore. This might be individual Labour or Tory MPs, but to be frank, we need to have a very serious discussion about whether the two mainstream political parties in Britain are fit to represent us at this stage. I was listening to Tommy Robinson's interview with Lord Pearson the other day, and he affirmed what I've pondered for quite some time, which is that voting UKIP en masse might be the only realistic way out of this. Now, believe me, I know how that sounds. I understand there are problems with UKIP it would take wizards to solve, but under Batten they are fairly good on free speech. They're very good on issues such as Islam and preserving British culture. They've proven their ability to attract votes, in the past forcing Cameron's hand regarding the staging of an EU referendum, and they have a strong brand and a working model. Let me put it differently, I suppose, and start a bit of a debate in the comments below. If not them, who?
So the only thing that can be done is to get your followers and, as I say, the veterans and the football lads and so on. They have got, and I really think the best thing they can do is join UKIP, give Gerard a run. Gerard is sound on Islam, has been for years. Quite a few of the other people in UKIP aren't, for one reason or another. But Gerard is, and the National Executive Committee is behind him, and he's got a real fight in his hands. It needs money. If these people can change, and these are real people. There should be a movement of real people funneled through a political party, because only these people, what you were looking at, and the House of Commons and David Cameron and all that lot and Theresa May, they're not going to do anything about this until they fear they might lose their seats.
They need to be replaced.
Finally, nobody in good conscience could actually obey this pissing law. We'll campaign for its appeal through the Commons legally, but in the meantime, we continue to treat it with the contempt it deserves. And one such way of doing that is to point out the blatant hypocrisy and double standards, hold the authorities to account, and hoist them on their own petards. For example, they want laws prohibiting gross offence? Alright. The next time some cock appears on Newsnight or wherever, insisting that cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad not be printed in British media lest they offend Muslims, we should get a lawyer, visit Scotland Yard and complain that the person who says this has insulted Muslims by maintaining that they follow an intolerant religion that is incompatible with Western values. Let's see how those Wahhabi fuckers like that. Two can play at this game, but more seriously and more importantly, of course, there should be pictures of this pug everywhere, and jokes of a similar kind being underlined and given new lease of life. It was quite encouraging yesterday, actually, to see the response from celebrities and various comedians. Ricky Gervais was among them. He denounced the judgment. Unfortunately, though, it was only really half a victory, as he didn't repost Count Dankula's original video, which would have been the proper thing to do as an act of defiance. He instead reposted a video of him talking about the Count Dankula incident, which sort of gives the impression that there is something to be ashamed about. We're not having any of that. On the contrary, the most effective way to stand with Meechan is to spread the blame around. And so I'll leave you with a selection of my favourite Heil Hitler inspired comedy, firstly to honour that principle, and secondly just to remind you that if these people were to reproduce these jokes in the UK tomorrow, they'd possibly be locked up. Enjoy.
Oh.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Greg.
Is it?
Yes.
My name is Larry.
Hi.
A great pleasure to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.
So, what are you drawing?
Oh, I'm just doodling. That's a Hitler mustache. That's Hitler hair.
What's a Hitler?
He was the ringleader. Old Adolf. That name's died out, hasn't it? He killed that dead, didn't he? No one's calling their kid Adolf nowadays. No little Adolfs going to school. Loads of Brads and Angelinas, but no, look, you don't hear the teacher doing the register. Brad here, Angelina here, Adolf here.
I mention that only to make this next comment a bit lighter, because if any of you that know a little bit about history and fashion will know that Hugo Boss made the uniforms for the Nazis. And the Nazis did have flaws, but, you know, they did look fucking fantastic. Let's face it. I'm literally a comedian, and it is my job to make jokes about things. You know, so Hugo Boss, you know, it's fair enough. He might not have known. We're selling a lot of these they're flying off the shelves. We had a lot of clients in the 30s and 40s. I can't remember all of them. Did you make a lot of elasticated crotches, Hugo? Did it ring any bells?
Why is everyone moving in slow motion?
As I was saying, she packed up her bag and left. It was all very sudden.
Well, do you know where Mika is right now?
As you know, she's always been very interested in the classics, Greek and Roman literature and history, and she has always enjoyed the ocean, so she found a program that combines all her interests.
Well, do you know where she is?
She enrolled in a summer at sea program based in Rome.
Rome. Okay, then I guess we'll go to Rome then.
Well, unfortunately, Mika's only in Rome for orientation. Tomorrow her group will be boarding a boat and she'll be gone for the summer and she'll be quite unreachable.
Unreachable.
Hey, watch! Who's this then? Start you, my I'll do the funny walk. I'm trying to cheer her up, you stupid kraut! Funny? Not funny, you're joking!
It's not funny for her, not for us, not for any German people.
You have absolutely no sense of humor, do you?
This is not funny!
Who won the bloody war anyway?
Sieg heil. Sieg heil. Sieg heil. Sieg heil.
Yeah, I don't think Jews would like that.
Get a life, Jews.
Yeah. Okay.